Welcome along. You're watching CNN Money Switzerland. I'm Hannah Wise with the latest news headlines on Wednesday, the 3rd of June. Swiss has reported an operating loss of over 84 million Swiss francs in the first quarter of 2020. In the same period last year, it recorded an operating profit of 48 million Swiss francs. First quarter revenues dropped by 20% compared to the same time last year, with a 21% drop in passengers in the first 3 months of the year. Switzerland's GDP dropped by 2.6% in the first quarter of 2020 due to coronavirus pandemic and the measures to contain it. Economic activity in March was severely restricted. The service sector was particularly affected by business closures and restrictions. Historic declines were seen in trade, accommodation, and food services. Meanwhile, the Swiss blue chip SMI has traded back above the 10,000 point mark for the first time since March. Other European indexes are also sharply higher as investors continue to pile back into riskier assets. Euphoria has taken over markets in recent weeks, buoyed by record support from governments and central banks. The World Economic Forum will take place in 2021 in a new Twin Summit format, which will see events both here in Switzerland and online. The theme for next year will be the Great Reset.
You talk about the Great Reset, and I know that this is going to be the theme of the 2021 Davos World Economic Forum. Just give us a little bit of an idea as a WEF insider of what we can expect from that.
Look, we're seeing such transformation around the world. Day by day, the situation is changing. The annual meeting next year will be a different kind of proposition. It's going to be adapted and adapting to a different kind of world, both from a health and safety perspective of the ability for people to be able to travel, but also being more connected, more locally connected, more listening and a sort of a two-way exchange. So we're talking about it as a sort of a dual summit where we'll have participants in different nodes around the world in Davos, but also in our global shaper hubs, who are young leaders under the age of 30 who are in 400 different hubs around the city, around the world. So that will be a change, but the forum has always wanted to be adaptive to the changes and for an event like the annual meeting to be resonant and relevant and shaping the agenda for the year to come.
Do you think people will still trek all the way to a small snow village like Davos for the coming years, given the crisis?
It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell, and I think we go into this with the humility to say that we don't necessarily know what the next few months are. But in a way, we're more. The forum is more than about the event. It is more about creating communities. And so, with that ethos, we can think differently, and not sort of as an event organizer, and more as a community builder. And so, if we need to go meet and reach people where they are because it's complex for them to travel, then that's what the forum will do.
Investors are expecting the European Central Bank to increase its pandemic rescue program later this week, even though it has only spent around a third of the 750 billion euros available. Earlier, I spoke to Saxo Bank's head of macro analysis, who told me that he could see purchasing lasting into 2022.
Well, I think this is bright clear that they will need to at least increase by 500 billion euro in order to absorb all the new coronavirus debt that is linked to the pandemic. And at the same time, a key factor we'll need to focus on is how long will it last? Because as you know, that should last normally until the end of the year, but it is extremely important for countries and investors that it will go beyond 2020, probably 2021, or even 2022. I think that we are in a period where accommodative monetary policy will last much longer than anyone expects. So we need a road of monetary policy where we are heading to, and I think the European Central Bank will provide a lot of insights.
How much pushback do you think we'll get, though, on Thursday if it does increase its PEP program? I mean, Germany didn't like the first tranche.
Yeah, but this is also clear that at the same time, we are in an economic situation where we need much more monetary policy easing. And if you look at the latest statistic from Germany, I mean, this is quite clear. This is as ugly as in any other European countries. So I think we have window of opportunity, maybe 6 months, 9 months, during which Germany won't be against European Central Bank monetary easing. I think that we are in a very special period of time, very unusual period of time where we need the European Central Bank. And I guess Germany, especially Chancellor Merkel, understands it quite well.
But isn't this just a guise to help countries that are struggling, countries like Italy? I mean, if you look at how much was spent on Italian bonds, it was something like 8 billion more than expected. And France, you know, actually had undershot how much they expected the ECB to buy from them.
Well, we will have clear indication, I think, that we will have what we call long-term deviation from capital key from the European Central Bank. But this is key. I mean, as a matter of fact, if you look at the economic situation from Italy or Spain, they will need to have a broader support for a very long period of time from the European Central Bank. So I think it is not an issue. And I would say this is quite a good news, actually, that we will have this long-term deviation from capital keys.
Now, the coronavirus pandemic is making job seekers think twice about what they want from their next career move. Olivia Chang has been speaking to the managing director in Switzerland of the rapidly growing Xing business network, which has signed hundreds of thousands of new members during the crisis.
Xing, you're essentially a career platform. You're focused on the German-speaking market. How has membership and activity changed during this whole time during coronavirus?
Thank you very much for having me, Olivia. Actually, mainly the activity has risen in this time. Having a situation where we're practicing physical distancing has made people more conscious about using or actually interacting socially on the digital platforms. Also, what we've noticed and seen that there was a huge demand for people to stay informed, not only about the pandemic itself, but also on how their work situation can be improved during this time.
You've mentioned that there's an increase in activity. Is it simply that more people want to switch jobs, or they just have a lot of extra time to update their CVs during this period?
I would say neither or, in actual fact. I think it's more that it's a replacement for the physical contact or the social contacts have been missing in person to stay connected with their business contacts. And also, as I mentioned previously, to really stay informed in this very special situation that not only raises new challenges as such, but also specifically in the working space. We should all remember that many organizations have sent their employees home, and this is an entirely new situation, and not only spending a few hours, a few days in a remote work or home office situation.
So Xing Switzerland has been taking a look at the Swiss labour market, trying to gauge what the needs are for Swiss workers. If you had to put yourself in the shoes of someone who is job hunting during this time, what is going to be critical for them in their next job and their next employer?
So what we've seen as the relevance, or we actually performed a study with the Corona Barometer on what the needs are for those employees. And we found is that flexible working options have become more and more important, but also their specific purpose in their actually daily jobs. So it was very important to find organizations, companies hiring that have the same values and that really allow those people to focus on these needs.
So what increase have you actually seen in the job ads that have added remote working, home office to their job descriptions? And are we going to see a huge influx in the coming months after coronavirus, or when things start to settle down again?
So we actually analyzed all the job ads beginning as from the beginning of this year. And what we've seen as from the second week of 2020, there was a huge uptick in mentioning remote and a home office. The percentage, let's say the number is actually fivefold the development, which is it's a huge increase. Now, of course, just analyzing those keywords in job ads is a very crude way of looking at this, but it does emphasize the importance of flexible working options.
What have you actually noticed from their work habits? Are they taking on much more hours because they have to be online constantly, or in fact just really long coffee breaks? What have you noticed?
So what we noticed is that work-life balance has become more important. So 50% of the people that we've asked in our study responded that this has become more important. So it might be an indicator that it can be a problem for different individuals. But we also performed actually a study looking at how people have been using the breaks during this very special home office situation. And what we found is that like around 40% of the people were performing outdoor sports in the breaks, and like 20% were performing indoor sports like yoga or fitness routines. And we compared this to how the pre-pandemic or lockdown situation was. Only 10% actually said they were doing physical activities during those breaks. So it seems to have a very, very positive effect on how people actually manage the work-life balance, perform breaks, and we really hope that this is something that's there to stay when people get back into their normal settings, being offices for other workers.
And hundreds of volunteers in Geneva have been distributing food and hygiene essentials and offering social services to the thousands of people in need there. Many are undocumented workers who lost their jobs amid the lockdowns. The initiative is part of the Save2020.org movement, which is supported by CNN Money Switzerland. Bags, as far as the eye can see, filled with food, hygiene products and baby essentials. This arena is filled with thousands of donations, and volunteers are working to distribute them to those who need it most. Scenes like these have become the new norm at the Patinoire de Vernay in Geneva since the coronavirus hit Switzerland. The Solidarity Project was launched by La Caravane de Solidarité to help those hit hard by the crisis.
The number's growing. We're up to 3,500 now. They just slid into poverty like everybody else, except that they have a more precarious status because some of them are undocumented or still being regularized.
It's part of a joint action with the Canton's hospital and other charities to provide things like minor healthcare services and legal advice for those in need. Over 300 volunteers are involved.
Being volunteer here is quite tough in the beginning because it's not easy to see all this special situation, this misery that we are not used to. We don't see it every day on everyday life. At the same time, it's exalting because on the end of the day, you can really see that you did something to bring this world together.
The project will run until June the 6th, and it will then be decentralized into smaller charity events within the communes. That's you up to date this Wednesday. Everything is, as always, available online. Check out our website at cnnmoney.ch, and you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Bye-bye.